It's the number one cause of child death in the States. What's it going to take?
The media is controlled by Democrats. They also understand that if they control guns, they control the people. It made me feel that we've been wanting to have school resource officers in every school in America, and we have had that in many cities throughout the country. But since the left, the Democrats have come out with against the police officers throughout the country, and many Democrats in many cities are against police officers, they have removed school resource officers from many of the schools. Therefore, it makes schools soft targets, and then deranged people can go in there and kill people. And so we need to have more security, because even if we had gun control and guns were outlawed tomorrow, there's 400 million guns in America and they could never be confiscated.
We've become so accustomed to hearing these stories coming out of the US. These school shootings, mass shootings, they're now just a backbeat to American life. They're accepted, they're expected, and they're on the rise. And I think that's really sad. And I think it's just dreadful that we've actually got to this place. And, you know, thoughts and prayers and all the rest of it's going to be sent out by everyone that's, you know, pretending to care. And actually nothing is going to be done about this. There is a majority in America, they don't even want it banned necessarily. They just want restrictions, which are really sensible, on who you can give guns to. They just want some restrictions about, you know, don't give guns to abusive partners, for example. Don't give guns to people convicted of hate crimes or people with mental illness who pose a safety risk. Even just people under 21. This is like pretty sensible stuff. Why does anyone need an assault weapon? But this just keeps running into the brick wall that is the US Senate, because the US Senate has got that veto over national policy to a minority of states, and most of them are small, they're largely rural, they're largely white, and they are dominated by Republicans.
Studies show that there are people, every time we have a tragedy like this that happened in Nashville, more people are interviewed and they say they want to have gun control, and younger people want to have gun control. Because of that, they think that will make it safer. They'll make schools safer and make society safer, but they don't understand what it's all about. They don't understand that most of our violence, most of our homicides happen in cities where there are gangs and violence in the cities. And these school shootings, however tragic that they are not the majority of the deaths in our country. When you have people who are subjects instead of free men, freedom, you have to worry about these things. That in other countries where there's gun control, the government can impose its will upon its people, upon its subjects. And in America, the reason why we have the Second Amendment and the reason why we stand so firmly, those of us who support it, is because we understand what it's like to have a government rule us with this boot on our neck, and we don't want to have that. We want to have freedom.
The fact that it took the UK, it took one school shooting in Dunblane in Scotland in 1996 to change gun laws shows, I think the result of that shows how desperately the US needs a solution. So we had one school shooting. A man walked into a school in Scotland where, by the way, our tennis champ, Andy Murray, was in lessons at the time. And he opened fire and he shot 16 children and their teacher during a PE lesson. And there was so much national outcry. And thankfully, there was a successful campaign for reform. And by the end of that year, following that massacre, our parliament had banned private ownership of most handguns, banned semi-automatic weapons. They brought in mandatory registrations for shotgun owners, and there was comprehensive screening. And since then, this is the litmus test, right? This shows you that gun control works, because since then, we've had no more school shootings. By comparison, the US has had 376 school shootings since Columbine, which was in 1999. They've had, by comparison, the US has had 129 mass shootings In this year alone, we're in April. It's the #1 cause of child death in the States is firearm-related injury. What's it going to take for them to change the rules? What's it going to take for them to look over the pond and see what happened here in 1996, what the consequences were? And now that we can live in a society where I don't have to fear sending my kids to school, I don't have to worry about the fact that the #1 killer for children is firearm-related injury. The more gun ownership there is, the more guns in society, the more gun violence there is. There's a 2016 study, I know it's quite a while ago, but it still holds true, is that gun ownership in the US is 30 times higher than gun ownership in the UK. And that translates into related homicide.
I think there's a lot to do with mental health disorders. You see, back in the 1980s, and I think it might have been under Reagan, and I really liked President Reagan, but they did something that they called mainstreaming people. So people who had mental health issues, they mainstreamed them. I have a psychology degree from the University of Washington. I've studied psychology. I've been a cop for 33 years. And I understand that there are many people who need to be in a facility, institutionalized, because they have these mental health disorders, and being out in the street is not compassionate. I know people in the UK won't agree with this, but I'm going to tell you what stops it. We need to stop having gun-free zones. When you see a sign in America that says gun-free zone, that says crazy person or violent person or deranged person or evil person, come in here and kill these people. It's a soft target. We need to have teachers who are willing and able to be armed to be able to do that. There are states that has passed, and school shootings are down in those states. And the reason why is because violent, evil people go into areas where they know the chance of them getting killed is lessened. So when we have people that are armed, I just spoke with some people the other day, and they said, well, teachers shouldn't be armed. You're right. In a perfect world, they shouldn't be armed. But here's the deal. In the meantime, people will be coming in to the schools and killing teachers and children. And so what are the teachers who aren't armed going to do? Stand there in front of the gunmen and get shot and killed? I'm trying to say we need to do something in between while we harden our schools and we bring school resource officers back. And I believe if we have a school resource officer or armed security at every school, that will stop our school shootings.
There needs to be gun control. I just think it's so simple. I don't know how anyone can explain away not restricting gun control to people who have got previous for crimes, for abusive behaviour, for mental illness that poses a risk to people. And why are we giving guns to people under 21 as well? There's absolutely no need for that. Why is there a need? Just here's a quick one. Just ban semi-automatic weapons. Why does anyone need to load and fire that many bullets at anyone? There is absolutely no reason for it. And you can talk about other forms of control, and people talk about, for example, arming teachers. Like, that to me is just, you're bringing guns into the school. Like, how is that going to be something that solves this problem? So I don't think that's the right thing. I mean, you can talk about bringing in metal detectors and stuff like that, but this is literally like putting on a sticking plaster that falls off seconds later. Obviously, you've got the Second Amendment, which I think, people believe it is their constitutional right to bear arms, and that is deeply ingrained in American culture and American history. So I think that obviously is a huge part of the opposition, although it's so dated, like it needs to be revisited. Not all laws should remain the same, and especially when that amendment was written, I don't think it was written with the idea of giving someone with a history of violence who was 18 years old a semi-automatic weapon so they can walk into a school and blow children away. You've got the National Rifle Association, and it's got these hugely deep pockets. Billions of pounds is poured into or donated to Republican politicians who then go on TV and spout these pro-gun nonsense. You had one a few weeks ago that was ripped apart by comedian and political commentator Jon Stewart, who basically was advocating for more guns. More guns, it means a safer America. And actually, everywhere you look, studies show the opposite to be true.
It's because the media is controlled by Democrats. The Democrats have the narrative. Democrats also understand they're not smart. They are smart. They're not dumb. They understand that if they have control of the narrative, they control things. They also understand that if they control guns, they control the people. The biggest fear in America for people who want to control us and don't want us to be independent is our guns. There are so many people who have guns in America. But the other fallacy about it is people believe, oftentimes on the left, if you outlaw guns, then all the guns will be turned in, like they did in Australia and other places. That won't happen. That won't happen in America, and definitely won't happen with bad people. The only people that will have guns then, if we all turn our guns in, would be the criminals. They'll still have guns. We are the most divided in America as we have ever been. Those on my side do not want to be imposed upon by the people on the left. I live in the state of Washington. Washington is a complete dictatorial state. We don't want to be told what to do. We want to live in freedom. That's what it's all about. I put my life on the line for this country since I've been 18 years old for freedom and upholding our Constitution. And that's what I stand for.
I think for as long as the Republicans have got control of the Senate, we aren't looking at any gun bans. I think we'll even struggle to get, or they'll even struggle to get gun restrictions, sadly.